Welcome to the next episode of the Cannabis Review. I'm delighted to join in this episode by Greg Gasper, who's the CRO at US Weed Channel. How are you keeping today, Greg?
Hi, thank you for having me.
Delighted to have you on. Do you maybe want to give everybody a quick little overview of your position at US Weed Channel and how you came into the industry?
Yes, so Chief Revenue Officer currently at the US Weed Channel. We are obviously a cannabis TV station, but really built to be a global cannabis media platform. Been in the business most of my life, or the plant has been a part of my life since my teens, but formally and professionally started in the rec market in about 2015 in Washington State. Launched one of the premier CBD brands that got into Dillard's and Selfridges, as you would know, in the UK, and Lane Crawford in Hong Kong. That brand was Wildflower Brands. And that position promoted me and moved me to Los Angeles, where I ran a series of regulated licenses there and really built, I feel like that was the foundation of my career, was that move to Los Angeles there. And my connections to that community, where the major project that I was leading was we were one of the leading ease delivery depots in Los Angeles. So that was an amazing experience getting to work with, one of the premier tech platforms in cannabis at that time. And that was great. And it was a colorful experience. And long story short, the Wildflower company purchased those licenses. They were never signed over. So that kind of left myself in a strange position in the company, and decided to move to Phoenix. And that's where I cut my teeth here in this market where I'm currently at in Phoenix, Arizona, getting to work to help launch some of the premier brands here, the top vape brand in the state, Infused, and launching their CBG wellness brand here. And eventually working with Shango as sales director, which is the top flower brand here. And yeah, so long story long, my journey was through more or less, touching and selling almost every ancillary part of the business, from finished goods to hardware to tech. And that's kind of what brought me here to the TV channel, where I met Shane late last year. And once I heard what he had, I was kind of like, what? How do I join? So that's what brings me here now. And thank you, Owen, for having me.
My pleasure. There seems to be a massive big gap for a platform for cannabis media, and it seems to be a hole that you guys look primed to be able to fill. Do you mind to maybe elaborate a little bit on what you think the platform for cannabis media looks like, and is it going to involve a wave of M&A activity of the best offerings to the market and bring them all under one umbrella like current media would do?
Right. So, generally speaking, I think, whether you're a brand or a leading creator or voice in the industry, we are at the will of the big tech giants, the YouTubes, particularly as the host, for storing that content and distributing it, mostly for creators. From Instagram and LinkedIn, particularly, my experience in the rec market, pretty jaded with Instagram, having, dozens of accounts shut down and banned, and, some pettiness of reporting each other and all of those things that happen when you're at the will of one of these tech giants. So again, a lot of these creators are able to monetize the content that they create, and companies, whether you are a direct cannabis brand or an ancillary product, you're not able to market your product to reach the end consumer, especially through paid ads. You have to be very creative, and it's a fine line of what you post versus getting thrown in jail and all of those things on social media. So that is kind of the basis of what we want to build here. We want to be a platform for the voice of the global cannabis community, whether that is a consumer, someone interested in learning more on the educational side of it, or a company looking to reach the global cannabis audience.
It also seems to me that there's a massive gap for the content creation side of this industry for there's so many potential stories that could be turned out of from this sector, like they've done with some of the WeWork shows or kind of these kind of elements. There's enough tales. Having a publisher that's able to actually go out and purchase these shows or movies and then sell them onto bigger opportunities seems like a very good advantage point.
Absolutely. So, advertising partners that come to join the channel, 100% of that money stays within the cannabis community. One, because 70% or so of those funds will be going towards the production of a new show, which is an asset that we will share together as the ad brand to help produce it, as now that show is brought to you by that brand in perpetuity. And that is now, again, an asset of ours. So if that show blows up, we can put that on Amazon Prime streaming or Hulu or Netflix and things like that. So, it's not limited to our network. We are able to take it to the masses. We're also able to lease content from major production studios to play on our channel. So Sony and Paramount in particular, we can pick from those Rolodexes, lease that content, and have it brought to you by your favorite brand. So think of your favorite, cannabis movie. I like to use the example Harold and Kumar Go to White Castle could be brought to you by White Castle or brought to you by your favorite brand. So the possibilities really are endless. And I think I feel like part of the challenge here in the United States in particular is, I don't think people really believe it that we're able to.
Yeah, as I said, of all the sectors that we analyze from the cannabis industry, from biotechnology to cultivation, retail, the media side of it seems to be one of the biggest markets that you could potentially get into with the fewest competitors in it. But it seems like whoever gets in and becomes the dominant leader now has to build the whole foundations and the building itself, whereas cultivation could take expertise from another industry and bring it in. I think making cannabis media would have to involve, I would imagine, a blend of either consumers or industry expertise to be able to ensure that the content is as factual and correct as possible.
Correct. And you nailed it, because I often get asked a question to the effect of, well, who are you trying to reach? Are you trying to reach companies or are you trying to reach consumers? You say you're a global channel, but you're US. But the fact is we are all that. We have to reach the consumers. Consumers want to know about the brands and companies and how it's cultivated, how it's made, maybe do a tour of the manufacturing facility or lab. I think that's important for consumers to see from their top brands. And plus, partnering with us, we want to, give as much ROI and ROAS back to you as possible, which automatically brings the CEO onto a talk show that we have, kind of a satire comedy talk show, and really just crank up that partnership, make it mutually beneficial, which I think is another thing that companies here in the US are apprehensive about. And I will say part of what connected you and I here, Owen, was my outreach this year to particularly the European markets and their excitement actually in it. So on the US side, I hear it's like, oh yeah, that's amazing, we'll see, sort of thing, where the European side is more like, wow, you built something amazing and let's go.
It seems the move when we have a lot of M&A activity across the industry, let's say Schedule 3 allows that to happen. The big brands that end up coming out on top that control massive portions of the industry, it would be the most prudent thing for them to have a large CapEx budget for content creation, a la the Red Bull model, where it's more sense to be able to create our own content and generate consumers as opposed to targeted billboards and ads on TV, which might necessarily be preferential for the non-cannabis consuming or the non-cannabis favorable side of the population. So is that one of the medium to long-term strategies that you guys are saying that, okay, when this does happen, these budgets for these billion-dollar companies are going to be available to actually write some serious checks to create some real content? Because as we all know, everybody at this moment now kind of is self-made content, and the budgets behind a lot of stuff could be a hell of a lot better once they had access to that capital.
Absolutely. So, long story short, the answer is yes. The strategy is to increase the production value and to, not just the production value of podcasts and, news shows, stock trading shows and, other educational and cooking shows that we will be producing, but just leveling it up each quarter. And, to your point, as things go Schedule 3, if they do, I'm not confident in that personally, but we'll see. Things will change in that regard. You already see the Pabst Blue Ribbons and some of the big dogs entering the space. Well, that's when you'll continue to see that happen. And those brands, the brands that we know that are imprinted in our brains, well, they know how to market and they spend money on media and those productions and getting their voice out there. So you made a great example when you mentioned Red Bull. So I think, there's a lot of parallels to what we can do with Red Bull. I think, X Games and, the yacht races and the plane races and all the cool stuff, actually, that unique stuff that Red Bull produces. Well, that's just generally a lot of what we will be doing over here at the channel. We will be having our own sports leagues and esports and things like that. So you can expect that from us, but obviously with our, cannabis community twist on it. And think of it, I guess we're kind of like the new MTV in a way, almost, is a bit of our motto.
Yeah, well, comedy, music, sports, I think the Venn diagram of those three things kind of sits perfectly in the middle. So
Right.
If you can get a global audience viewing those three different genres, then I think, as I said, you've got a recipe success on your hands.
Absolutely. And yeah, thank you. And it's, the sky is really the limit for what we can do. And generally speaking, the vision of the companies that choose to enter a media partnership with us is, those first partners are going to have a large part in, forming the direction of the channel into the future. And that's why it's interesting. Starting this year, really, again, the enthusiasm from Europe has got me going. Absolutely. Because I think that, I think a lot of companies that are eyeing that market, they see huge potential, right? And they see opportunity beyond what's here in the United States. It's incredibly difficult, again, here to market and operate. And, I think it's kind of the new horizon that's exciting. And for those that are already there, they see advertising on a US channel as that bridge, to gain more brand awareness from, probably the largest legal cannabis market in the world. So, or country, right?
Yeah, no, very much so. It's been incredible talking to you and going through the US Weed channel. For anybody who hasn't visited the site yet, the website is below and in the description wherever you watch or listen to this podcast. Hopefully we get to touch base again in a couple of months, Greg, and hear more about the future expansion for you guys.
Thank you very much, Owen. It's been an honor and look forward to chatting with you again soon.
And my pleasure. Until next episode, everybody.